The bearings are right. We'll make it right for Josephine tonight.
Well, hello, my name is Ralph and welcome to the channel. It's my time, let's go. Today we're working away at Josephine and we're going to try and get the transmission in today, or get it together and get it mostly in the bike. So stick around through. We're going to show you like 10-12 tips that might help you out when you're doing your transmission, things to look for, things to watch for, and hopefully it'll all go smooth. So let's get at it. So today what we're going to do is work on the transmission there, and you've seen I've got the 5th gear done and put new bearings in it and such, so it's ready to go with the bearings and the seals and such in it. So today we've got to work on disassembling the transmission here, putting some new bearings inside of it because there was so much crud, as you've seen, that because where the main bearing deteriorated, the cage, that we have to do something with it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to work on that today and try to get those things in place. First thing that you're going to have is a nice set of snap ring pliers, and these have teeth on the outside of them. 2 different kinds I have here, and that will enable you to get the snap rings off of the gears here. Without using those tools, you're going to find it pretty hard. So I mean, it's something that if you're going to work on your transmission and stuff, they're not that expensive. Now mine happen to be a set of Jims here that I've acquired, but these ones aren't. So you can buy cheaper ones to use it, and if it's not something that you're doing every day, you don't need the expensive stuff, but work with what you got. I'm going to try these new ones. I haven't tried them, so I don't know what they're going to be like. See if we can get a bite on it. Just spread them. Take them off. There's one. So as we start to disassemble the transmission, we want to keep things in their right positions so that you know where you're going, especially if you're not familiar with them. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep our main shaft gears and our counter shaft gears together. So as we pull the first one off, I'm going to put it down there. This is our counter shaft gear, and there's a spacer underneath this. Now some of the gears differ through the years, so it's important to keep track of what's what. Pull that one off, and there's small rings in behind, so be sure that you keep these spacer rings and pay attention to where they go. And we'll pull our main shaft one off. There's a snap ring here. Oh, that one don't want to come out of there. Let's try my Jim's ones. I can get out of this kind of angle with these. Go. So there's where the needle nose ones kind of help work a little better. And like I say, there's a split bearing in here, and we can see what's happened there. And I know you can't really see it on there, but it's full of metal in there. They're old steel type. Alrighty, let's see if we can get down and get at the next one in here. This counter shaft gear off, get it out of our way. So now we got to get 3rd gear off here and get this retaining ring out. And the retaining ring is down in to these sort of shift clogs that are on here. These sort of things here. And you can't spread that ring to get it out. Well, I shouldn't say can't. I guess you can get in there with a screwdriver and some other stuff and try to get it out. But the easiest way to get it out is to look down inside on the other side of the 3rd gear, and there's a ring in there. And again, this is why you need these kind of pliers. So if we look down in there, and we just slide that, and we first try to pop that retaining ring. It's not an easy task. You're just trying to get a hold of the ring and not the teeth. In there and slide it over. And we've basically moved that retaining ring over this way. And because the retaining ring is now out of the way, we can push it down and slide our third gear over farther, so now we can get at this retaining ring. It's a little bit of fooling around, but and we get that one off. Okay. Again, there's a little gear spacer on that side and a gear spacer on this side. And that's off our main shaft, so we're going to put that right there. Now we can get this retaining ring off. There we go. And there's a split bearing here. There we go. Okay. And now we can also, we can't pull this up yet because of the shoulder on the where the shifting thing is. Now we've got to get the other one out of the other gear now. So we need to get these nuts off of here, and the reason for that is because at this stage we need to press the shafts out of the trap door plate. And I should have probably loosened those up when they were in the transmission. Would have been easier, but so because we didn't get the nuts off before, which is probably a good idea when you still got when you take the shift shaft, the shift drum out, you can lock this in 2 gears and that will keep it from moving. But we didn't know what we were going to be into, and we didn't get the nuts loose. So now we're into this position where we're at, and we need to get the rest of the gears off. So what I've done is grab the counter shaft here in a set of brass jaws, and make sure you're in the brass jaws so that you don't, hurt the splines or anything. And don't try to work the outside one because that's got a lot of things here. Concentrate on the one that's in the jaws, and we'll see if we can. There we go. We don't want to put any undue stress on the door, so you can't jam things in between them, and there's a small spacer washer in there. Okay. That's our counter shaft. And then we're going to try and do the same thing with the main shaft. We'll put the main shaft in there and get a hold of this. Keep my brass jaws in there. You can't grab the shafts because you could spin the shafts and mark them up. So you've got to go on the splines and make sure they're good and tight. It doesn't seem like a lot of torque, but if you're just trying to hold it on the bench and try to get it off, it won't happen. Not out. Okay, so now we're going to have to take this over to the press and press these shafts out as a unit. There is, in fact, a small washer on the end. I didn't see it stuck to the nut. You've got to pay attention to those kind of things because when you go look for the small parts later, you'll wonder where they went. Okay, so let's go over and get it set up in the press, and we'll press those shafts out. So we're going to try and press it out. We just got like a little 7/16 socket, a little bit of an extension, and that should allow us to go right on the end of it there, get it positioned up where we want it, and try to support the door with as much support as you can. It's a little tricky because of the shafts. You just always don't want to go where you want them to go. So if you hang on to your gears, not like I didn't have them fall out, you can keep track of what's what. But we have them here, and this is how they should be assembled. Now on the end of each gear is a washer, and the countershaft washer, as you can see here, has no shoulder, and it's tapered, countersunk inside, and that one goes on the countershaft. The main shaft one actually has a shoulder on it, And you can see here that the gear is standing up a little proud from the shaft itself, and that goes in, so when that's tightened up, the gear can still spin. So we want to keep track of those kind of things, and what we're going to do now that I have all my gears neatly laid out, I'll put my countershaft gear here, the spacer. Now some of the new gears have the spacer made right into the gear. These ones don't. And we'll take our little spacer off, which goes on the inside of that gear. And our main shaft gears will do the same thing. This is our little washer, our main shaft gear, and there's a spacer ring in it. These are done, and we can slide this off the other end. Okay, now we can take our rings off here. And off of there. We'll always replace all of these clips. Not reusable because they get sprung out of shape and such. The spacer rings are okay, but the clips aren't. And we should replace the nuts on the trapdoor as well as the C-clips. So now we have our transmission all apart. We have all our pieces laid out here so we know where everything goes and we won't forget. So we're just going to clean our parts off. Stuff and spray those all down and then blow them out to make sure that there's no grit stuck into any of the small grooves or anything there where it would accumulate. So we've got the trapdoor sort of cleaned off here. Now we're going to get the retaining rings and the bearings out. And we'll just compress those, lift those out, and we'll be putting new clips in there. And we'll put those in the press and we'll knock those bearings out. So we'll just support them well in here. We'll press them out. This one's a little trickier here because of the ear on it. Make sure it's supported on the solid spots. Go. So we've got them tapped into place, and I've got a little press tool to get them in. And we just press them down until they bottom out. And now we're pressed in, so we just got to put the C-clips in there and they're good to go. So when we press these in, we oiled up the bores good on these and oil on the outside of the bearings so things would slide in there nice and easy. And now we're ready to put our C-clips in there. C-clips always have a sharp side, so one side's really flat and the other side is sort of round. Put them in with the sharp side facing out. That helps to lock them in there. Go. There, we just rock them around there to make sure they're seated in good. Now we have to press the main shafts into these with certain pieces on them. So I'm going to get my press ready and get the pieces ready, and then we can show you how those go together. So we're going to get our counter shaft ready to go. We have to make sure that we use the washer that is countersunk on the inside, not the one with the shoulder. And make sure that your trap door is oriented correctly. If you think you're looking at the transmission like this, this is the counter shaft one. So that's definitely where we want to go.
No room for doubt. Press the counter shaft in, the main shaft as well. Feel it in your heart. Feeling swell.
And on our main shaft, we use the other one with the shoulder piece. There we are. and that one's bottomed out. So now we're going to get our nuts on there. So now we got our nuts ready to go on. I'm just going to put a little drop of blue on there just because I'm a Loctite guy. But the nuts actually have nylon around here, nylock, so when they go on it'll cut into the nylon and lock it. And we have our two small rings which have to go on. So I'm going to put one on here to start with. There we go. And we've clamped it in the jaw, in the brass jaws to hold it. And they say that these are 27 to 33 pounds, so I've set my wrench for 30. Puts me right in the middle. That one feels tight there already. So I need a new set of brass jaws. Mine are worn out. They make it very hard to put things together. Okay, those are in there like they're supposed to be. They're nice, there's no play between the gears. You know, you can feel just a slight little tiny bit, but not much of anything. And that's the way they're supposed to be. All right, so just grab our case there like that, and now we can work away at it. So we get ready to install it here. We get a little bit of grease. A little skim of grease on the bearings on the inside, the outside, and we'll gently slide our bearing down over there, just opening it up enough to slide over the shafts. Don't try to open them up too far or you could break them. Here we go. There's one in there. So then we'll take the main shaft, 4th gear, and just slide it down over that. Go. And there's a spacer ring goes in. There we go. Just slide that all the way down in there. And then we'll get a new clip, brand new clip to go down in there. Just push it down in there till it locks. Oops. There we go. You can hear it snap in there. And I can push it around and see down in there that it's actually locked into the groove. Okay. So now we'll take our counter shaft 1st gear, which is a small gear, and they say it's beveled, but this one isn't. On the later models it might be beveled in there, but it fits on the flat washer there, so go. And it's a solid gear in there like that. We also have the spacer that goes in there, and we've washed everything out with contact cleaner and then blown them out to make sure that there's no crud in it from the original problems. So we'll put a spacer in there. So next we'll install, we've got to put a bearing in there. A little bit of grease on the bearing. Bearing on there. I believe it's 1st gear, I believe, down in it. We need one of our spacers, not to forget. This one takes a spacer, and you can see it in the gear. Go. And then we need a new locking ring to hold it in place. So again, we'll use our wide one here. go. We're locked in place. We can see that we're locked in good. There we go. Okay. So now we'll take third gear. I believe it is. Put that on there. Just slide third gear onto there. And now we're going to take a snap ring and put it in this groove here. Make sure it's locked in the groove there. And then we'll take one of our little spacers, put that on, and that sits on there. A little bit of grease, throw a needle bearing on there. And then we'll take our third gear, slide that down over. That's in place. And we need a little spacer on that. So we got the retaining ring in there. And now we have to get a clip down there on third gear in the main shaft. Make sure we're locked in down there. Okay. So now we got to get another clip on here. And we need a spacer. Sits on top of that. And we'll grease up our last bearing to go on there. And we install our second gear. There it is. We've got a clip, got our little spacer. Now we'll install our second gear here with the teeth down so that they're able to mesh. And the sliding gear moves back and forth. We need our little spacer. And as we put the last one on, it's got a bevel inside here, and they're saying the bevel should face fifth gear, which would be up here. So we'll put that on this way. And the very last piece of the puzzle. So we need to install this second gear here with the groove for the shifter fork facing in. And at the very top we put our ring in here. Again, we'll double check that the bevel is fitting up in there that side, and that's what we want. That should do it. And if we put our fifth gear on there, it'll mesh in there just like that. That is your 5-speed transmission. So that will be good to go again. So now we'll have to go over to the bike. We'll have to take this fifth gear and pull it in through the bearing and get it into place. And then we can slide our transmission in. We've got a couple bearings to put in on there. So we'll go do that. And we'll be good to go. Now that we've got that done, we're going to start putting some other parts in. We've got a new needle bearing for it. I'm just going to oil the hole up. And the bearing as well. And be careful with these. And just try to get her started in there straight is the trick. get her started in there straight, and I hesitate to beat on the end of it. You don't want to pound too much on the end of it. I have a flat piece of aluminum here that I usually use. Make sure it's going in there straight. Okay, and I will oil up the inside of that when it comes time. 80 to 84, usually they got a bevel on them. This one doesn't. It says it's for those years, so. So I've got a ring in here that fits properly, and all of the 5-speed rings that I've ever seen are a bevel, what they call a beveled ring. And they have a taper on them. When I ordered this one, I won't say where I got it, but as soon as I took it out of the package, I noticed that it was a flat ring that they decided that they would just, you know, put in a package and sell as the proper ring, I guess. And this flat ring, in all the years I've been here working on 5-speeds, I've never seen a flat one. Now that's not to say that that's not the case, but I'm going to check the part number and see on this. So we're getting on in the day, and I did check those numbers. It did show a different number for it, but it's certainly not what was in it. And I think what was in it was what it probably originally came with. So those particular ones are not what we want. They don't work, and these ones are seated in there good. Just want to make sure that we're locked in. We are. So now we're going to try to get 5th gear in here. We have to pull 5th gear out this way. And I have some things that I've made up out of wheel spacers and such that go through there. See if we can get this in here before the end of the day. I'd like to have the transmission slid in here before I quit. So as it goes, sometimes nothing goes smooth, and I lost some film. Just was out of focus. It wasn't usable when I was pulling the gear into the main bearing. So I'm just going to take a moment and show you what I did here so that you have an idea of actually what's happening and how to properly do it. So let's have a look. So here, if you imagine the bearing in our case, I'll back this off a little bit. And we have this spacer made, so imagine the bearing is in the case with the clip on this side. And what we want to do is pull 4th gear through this bearing, but we can't just pull it on the bearing because it put too much stress, so we have to support the center of it. So I have something here made up so that this will go right on the center of the bearing. This old bearing doesn't have needles in it, so it doesn't want to fit just right. Gives you the idea. So this bearing here is solid in the case. So by supporting the center of the bearing and tightening on this, we're going to pull the 5th gear in through this bearing without putting any undue stress on the bearing at all. If you don't do that and you just haul it through, you can damage the bearing some. So I have this little piece made up that does that. So hopefully that will give you an idea of how it's supposed to go together. So once again, imagine this being in the case with the clip on this side. Then we slide the 5th gear into it. Then we push this support up, which this shoulder piece will just press on the center of the bearing. And we tighten it up. And then by tightening it here, it pulls the 4th gear in through this bearing without damaging the bearing. I hope that helps. Try and get our seal in there. Put our seal on that. These are double lip seal in here. Excess off. All right. Turn it. This is the one I'm looking for. So we've got everything pretty well ready to go now. Get in there. That's in, that's in. New seal in there, new seal in there. Let me shoot a little bit of oil inside that main gear. And we'll go grab our transmission, and I'll have to get a trapdoor gasket first for it. So I'll get those kind of things that I need. And I'm hoping I can slide this in by the end of the day here. Make sure I get lots of oil in my needle bearings. This on there. We'll carefully put this in. Go. There we are. A little bit of Loctite. 3, 4. And we've also put our drain plug in underneath. Make sure that's in. I put some seal all white sealer on it. Make sure that that's all the way it should be. We need our exhaust mount bracket. Don't forget to put that on. One here is for our ground strap. I want to put that in there. Star washer in behind it there just so it'll bite a little more than usual. So it'd be good to get the tranny in it. I didn't count on it, but you never know what you run into, and thankfully we caught it. Had I not been taking the enclosed chain off it and you just tried to fish a chain through there, as they say, you would have had no idea, and what a horrible nightmare that would have been when you went to start it. But now we know. These ones are 13 to 16 pounds. I'm set for 15. I think the top ones are 7 to 9. So I've got them set at 8. All right. That's good. And with that, I think I'll call it a day. I think I've got enough done here today, and the transmission's back in it. So I'm happy about that. I can put the shift shaft in, put the top on it, put the shift forks back in it, and then that'll be done. And we can get on to something else. Get on to getting on. Oh yeah, I want to put a bearing in the shift cam because it's wonky there on one side. So, all right. So if you enjoyed this video today, like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, do those kind of things. It helps us to grow. We're coming along with Josephine, and as you see now, we've got the transmission slipped in it, and I feel a lot better. Now the next thing that we're going to do is probably finish up the transmission, finish up the top of it, get that all buttoned up. We're moving ahead with Josephine, there's no doubt about it. We're on the downside now, I'm hoping. So we did run into some other little problems that I'll tell you about as we get there, but it's never dull, and that's for sure. But we're getting there, that's the main thing. Be sure and check out my brothers down south, Hippie's Chopper Corner, Slickhead's Custom Cycles. Be sure and check them boys out, subscribe to their channels, and I'm sure they got a lot of content that you'll be enjoying. So, I guess that's about it for this week. Not much else to say, but see you next week.
The main bearing's done, gear shaft's torn down. Special tools are needed, patience wears the crown. The old bearings are full of metal, worn and gray, but we're starting fresh from dusk until the morn. Now get those door nuts off, hold the shafts in brass jaws. Special attention to the end washers, we need no flaws. One wash of Bevel, the others countersunk right. Placement is important to make it right tonight. Keep things organized, everything in a row, nothing mismatched, so you know where they go. All new parts in, the bearings are right. We'll make it right for Josephine tonight. Remove the clips, press the bearings out, press the new ones in, no room for doubt. Press the counter shaft in, the main shaft as well. Feel it in your heart, the feeling swell. Assemble all the gears, slide them on one by one. Always use new clips to be sure it's done. Gears and clips on one at a time, getting it right so there's never a whine. Counter shaft fifth gear, make sure the bevel's upright. Facing fifth gear, we'll make it tight. Install the main seal, no drips, not a leak. A little low tide is all it needs to speed. Slide the gear set in, she's all good tonight. Torque it to the specs, well, keep it tight. More to do, it seems it never ends, but we'll make it right for Josephine again.